Good morning and welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. Today we're going to learn about the unique mission that each and every single one of us has upon this earth. Every one of us is here for a reason. We're not here on vacation. We're here on a mission, and that is a mindset shift. Thank you, Andy. It's a mindset shift that changes everything. You know, for a moment, think about it. How do people react? How do people react? Chuck, tell me if you can buy this, okay? How do people react when something bad happens to them? They're like,
why me?
Why me? Like, why would God do this to me? Like, why? But imagine if you could shift your mindset and say, like, remember, you're not here on vacation, right? You weren't sent to this earth in order to retire and relax and do nothing so that you can complain about why you were given a room without an air conditioning, right? Rather, you're on assignment. Now, when you realize that you're on assignment, then when something bad happens to you, instead of saying, why me, what do you say? You say, oh. You're like, oh, that must be my mission, right? That must be my assignment. That must be what I'm supposed to do.
The non-believer says, oh, God.
The non-believer says, oh, God. Exactly, right? Because really he is a believer. Okay, fine. Now, we are able to learn this idea from a very, very beautiful concept that comes out of today's Torah portion. You'll notice it in the portion of Pinchas. And we'll learn today how to identify what is your unique mission in this world. We're in the portion of Pinchas. I'm going to find the exact page here. It's page 997. 997.
Okay.
Actually, it's not the previous page. Here.
995.
It's 995. Let's go to page 995. We're in the blue Chumash. If you'd like to follow along with us in this Kehat Chumash, which is highly recommended reading, the Chumash, you can buy it online from KEHOT Publishers. Kehot Publishers. It's a very, very beautiful Chumash. It's got the translation of the Chumash interpolated with hundreds of commentaries in an awesome way. Beautiful. And welcome to all of our guests that are learning with us live and later. All the way from, let me see, Nashville, Tennessee. We love when you post where you're from. It's always interesting. Great. Stacy's with us and everybody else. Beautiful. Okay, Corey. Good. So the Torah this week is talking about dividing the land of Israel. You know, they just conquered the land, and they're going to conquer the land, and they're going to have to divide the land amongst the tribes. So what do? How did they decide which land goes to which tribe? It's a very, very interesting mechanism. How did they know which piece of real estate goes to which tribe? I mean, I can just envision that getting very complicated. When this one says, I want the water, I want the mountain, I want the river, I want the sea, I want the desert, I want the snow, right? Another says, I don't want to be near this one. You know, it's like making seating arrangements at like a gala or a bar mitzvah. It's a nightmare. You got to remember who talks to who doesn't talk to who's friends, who has common enemies, who has common friends. It's so complicated that Southwest Airlines actually has a whole system where they say the only way you do seating arrangements in Southwest, from what I understand, is that it depends on when you check into the flight. It's the order of check-in from 24 hours before. That it's the sequence of what number you get to stand in line to pick your own seat. You pick your own seat. We're not letting you get complicated. Are they changing it now?
Yes.
To what?
Regular. You get it.
You get it on a science seat. All right, fine, interesting. Anyways, let's take a look at what the Torah says about page 995. This would be Parshas Pinchas, chapter 26, verse 54.
Contains the Kahut name, the publication of the Chumash.
Oh, good. Okay, good. No, let's go back to the previous verse. To bottom of page 993, because it begins a section. Bottom of page 993. After Moses and Elazar completed the census, this is the census that they were commanded to count after the Torah portion this week opens with a plague. There was a plague, there was a calamity. 24,000 members of the tribe of Shimon were wiped out in a plague. And they needed to take a census afterwards. God spoke to Moshe saying, the land will be divided amongst these 601,730 Israelites. Remember, they were the Israelites between the ages of 20 and 60. Mm-hmm. As an inheritance, first according to the number of their names, then according to their fathers' estates, as will be described presently. But only those included in the present census will be considered. Someone currently under the age of 20, who turns 20 by the time the people actually conquer and divide the land, will not be entitled to his own portion. 995. You must give a larger inheritance to the larger tribe, and you must give a smaller inheritance to the smaller tribe. Each tribe must be given an inheritance according to its number. Nonetheless, the land must be divided by lot, by raffle. The land must be divided by raffle. This way, they will also inherit the land according to the names of their fathers' tribes, i.e., according to the population of the tribes in their father's generation. In this calculation, Joshua and Caleb will be considered the fathers of the children of the 10 spies. Their children, remember, the 10 spies didn't merit to inherit the land, remember? Right, the 10 spies died in the desert, right? But Joshua and Caleb became their spiritual fathers. Their children will receive the inheritance of the spies' children. Whatever, without getting technical. It happened by lot. Thus, their father's inheritance will be divided according to the miraculous pronouncement of the lot itself. Whether it would otherwise have been large or small. From all this, it is clear that converts and freed slaves who are not part of any tribe do not inherit any land. Also, Joshua and Caleb will not receive their inheritance according to this process, for I've promised Hebron to Caleb, and I'll give Joshua an inheritance by his request. Okay, now that was the part that I wanted to share with you from the Chumash. Let's dive a little deeper into this. First of all, special welcome to Yossi Haber from NYC. Nice. Nigeria. We got Paul from Nigeria and somebody from, was that Iraq? I don't know if you're from Iraq or you're giving us a comment about Iraq. I don't know. Okay, great. Lovely. Good. Nice to have everybody from Nigeria. Good. Fellow African. So what happens over here is that we're learning that the land is divided by goyrol, by a raffle, by a lottery. Basically, they would pick up a piece of paper. They divided the land according to pieces of paper. And then each tribe had a piece of paper. So they would pick up in one hand and say, okay, the portion of land near the sea, right? Tel Aviv area, right? And then they picked up the tribe, and it said, this tribe gets that piece of land. The Golan Heights goes to this one. The South, the Negev, the Galil, right? Whatever, it goes to this tribe, and that's how they did based on a raffle, right? So we learn from here that the division of the land was a spiritual thing, not a rational thing. It wasn't like this tribe is good at farming, so therefore they should get more pasture, and this one is good at water products, and therefore they should get near the water. That it was not a rational division of the land. What it was an irrational, illogical, spiritual division of the land. In exactly the same way the Torah teaches us that just like the land was divided according to the tribes, so too every single Jewish person has a unique inheritance portion of this world which he needs to sanctify. A part of this world that is unique to that person, just like every tribe had an inheritance in the land of Israel that they needed to work and they needed to flourish and prosper. So too, every single soul of Israel has a spiritual inheritance in this world upon which that Jew needs to focus his attention, his concentration, his efforts, and his spiritual work in order to make that place a holy place. Now, this is not a rational division. It's not an allocation which depends upon rational explanation, but rather a person shouldn't say that I've got to identify the parts of this world that are interesting to me, things that attract my attention, and those are the ones that I'm going to choose to serve God with. Can't say, well, actually, I like studying, so therefore I'm going to be a scholar, or I like doing business, so I'm going to go into charitable endeavors, or I like to rest, so therefore I'm going to make Shabbos my thing. That's not how it works. Just like the division of the land was done by an irrational lottery, so too the unique person, the destiny, the unique mission of each person, the destiny of each person is not something which is allocated according to logic or rational explanation, but rather it's done through the raffle, which is super rational and destined, divined from above.
How about the rational approach that Reuven mentioned, which is why Reuven wanted to be on the east side of the Jordan?
Reuven, Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh asked for an inheritance of the land on the other side, outside of the borders of the land of Israel. They did request it. Was it rational? I guess they did. They wanted the pasture of the sheep. Look, apparently they got that portion. I'm not sure if they also got a portion inside of the land of Israel.
No.
I'm not sure if they did. I don't remember the nuances. But you know what? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. What I do know is what it says in this week's Torah portion. That's the next week's Torah portion, which is Matas Maseh, where they asked for their inheritance outside of the land. I imagine that what happened in this week's Torah portion before that event was that they did get an inheritance in the land of Israel divided by the raffle. And later on, they asked for extra land outside of the land of Israel. That's what I think happened. But
Rabbi, you said each person's destiny is done by lottery or
by just like by lottery, it's done. It's determined by supernatural and not rational reasons.
But isn't destiny and purpose, those are two different things? Destiny and purpose.
Destiny and purpose. So destiny is why is the two different things? Of course, it's two different things.
Is what you're meant to accomplish.
Right, and your destiny is what you're destined to.
Isn't the destiny the outcome?
No, I'm not sure if destiny is the outcome necessarily, because the outcome is subject to your choice. You do have a choice as to how you will react. We don't have a choice as to what will happen to us, but we do have a choice as to how we will react to the situation. For example, if your mission in this world is to, I'll give you an example. There was a story of a great sage by the name of Rabbi Yosef. I think his name was Rabbi Yosef. He was a great scholar, and he came to the Baal Shem Tov, I think it was, to ask him for guidance. And the Baal Shem Tov said to him, I think he came to ask the Baal Shem Tov if he should become a rabbi in this town or a different town. He was offered a big position, like a chief rabbi position. And the Baal Shem Tov said to him, actually, I think you should become a wagon driver. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? A great rabbi comes to the Rebbe and he says, should I accept the position in Chicago or in Los Angeles?
Neither.
And then he says, actually, I think you should do Uber. I mean, that's what the Baal Shem Tov said to him. Like I think you should do Uber. And what would you do? You'd be like, Rabbi, thanks, but no thanks, whatever.
I'll get another rabbi.
This Rabbi Yosef, he said, no, he became an Uber driver. He became a wagon driver. And there was a magnificent story about how he was able to save a soul that was lost because of his work as the wagon driver. And years later, he came back to the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov said, okay, now you can accept the position in Chicago. I mean, it was back in Russia, right? But now you can get that position because you fulfilled your destiny. There's something very beautiful, very helpful when you have a Rebbe, a seer, S-E-E-R, a seer, who is able to guide your footsteps and say, listen, you, Andy, I know that you're supposed to be right now in Nigeria, so get the first flight to Nigeria. You know what I mean? It's nice when you have a Rebbe that's able to tell you that. Or when the Rebbe is giving out dollars to people, and the guy's like, Rebbe, I'm going to France. And the Rebbe says to him, here's a dollar to give in Senegal to charity. Or in Indonesia. And you're like, huh? And the chassid would say, okay, I guess I'm going to Indonesia, right? Whether it's by my choice or not, I've got to figure out a way to get there because apparently that's my destiny. And this happened countless times with the Rebbe, where the Rebbe would give people this bizarre kind of guidance that didn't really make sense. And we interpret it that the Rebbe is a seer, a prophet, who's guiding our footsteps, giving us a fast pass, a shortcut to our destiny, as opposed to us having to struggle our way, groping through the darkness to discover our way to our destiny. But the message that we're learning so far is that, and I'm going to develop this theme in a moment, right? But the message you're learning so far is that every one of us has a destiny. We're not here on retirement. We're here on assignment, right? The challenges in our way are part of our purpose, right? But what is our specific mission in this world? It's not something which makes sense necessarily. Right? We each have a unique mission in this world. And let me illustrate with another story. The story goes about the Rebbe Rashab and his young son, the future Rebbe, the future sixth Rebbe. So Rebbe Rashab was the fifth Rebbe of Chabad, and his son, Rebbe Yosef Yitzchak, was the future sixth Rebbe who became the father-in-law of our Rebbe, right? So this story happened in the early 20th century, where the Rebbe Rashab was leaving the town of Lubavitch, which is where the Chabad headquarters was then. He was leaving by wagon with his young son with him. And as they were traveling by wagon, they noticed two Hasidim sitting on the side of the road deep in meditation. They both were sitting on the side of the road with their eyes closed, swaying. One of them was repeating a discourse that he heard in Lubavitch by memory. He had memorized that, and the other one was listening. Right? So they were reviewing the teaching of the Rebbe Rashab on the side of the road. So the Rebbe Rashab asked the wagon driver to stop. And they wait for a few minutes with a wagon very close to where these two Hasidim are sitting on the side of the road, not far from the Lubavitch. And they were so engrossed in their activities that they didn't even notice that there was a wagon next to them, no less the Rebbe was sitting there, was in the wagon waiting, listening to their conversation. The Rebbe Rashab turned to his son and he said to him, these two Hasidim, they were the school teachers of Beshenkovich, the town of Beshenkovich. Have you ever been to Beshenkovich? Me neither. So the two school teachers of Beshenkovich were sitting on the side of the road. The Rebbe Rashab said to his son, I want you to know that ever since the time of creation, this piece of real estate right here has been waiting for the two school teachers of Beshenkovich to come here to purify, to sanctify, to infuse holiness into this piece of real estate. This is their mission. This is the place that's been waiting for them to elevate, to illuminate, to sublimate. And the Rebbe Rashab proceeded. He said, for 5,000 years, 660 whatever, X amount of years, and X amount of months, and X amount of days, and X amount of weeks, and hours, and seconds, minutes and seconds. This piece of real estate has been waiting dormant for the school teachers of Beshenkovich to come to it in order to recite Chassidus on this very spot. Why did they choose this spot and not that spot? Destiny brought them there.
But they didn't know that was the mission.
They didn't know. And you know what they could have done over there? They could have had a picnic and discussed the NFL, right? But instead, they decided to discuss Chassidus. And see, that was their choice. You see the difference.
If you don't know what your mission is, how do you fulfill it?
Oh, so if you don't know what your mission is, then how do you fulfill it? Generally speaking, we know, Chuck, we know that our mission in this world is Torah and mitzvahs. Torah and mitzvahs. Torah and mitzvahs. Studying Torah like they were. And learning mitzvahs. Doing mitzvahs, right? The 613 commandments, 271 of which are practical during the days of the exile when Mashiach is not yet here and we don't yet have a temple rebuilt in Jerusalem. So you basically have 271 commandments. There's only about 100 and some, less than 200 of them. No, maybe 150, I think, that are positive action mitzvahs, and the balance is passive commandments, like do not murder and do not rape and do not, commit adultery. So those are easy, theoretically. But you got, like, let's say, you got about 150 action commandments and the study of Torah, which is your mission in this world. Now, how do you know your specific mission? How do you know your specific mission in this world? That's what we're going to get to in a moment. But so far, generally speaking, we know that what your mission is not something which is rational. That's what we learned from the portion this week. Just like the assignment of real estate in the portion was assigned by the raffle, by the lottery, by the word of God, and it wasn't like a rational job interview. Oh, you guys like farming? We'll give you this piece of land. You guys like cattle? We'll give you that piece of land. No, it's assigned by divine from heaven. Now, every single Jew, Tanya teaches us, every single Jew has a piece of real estate upon this earth, like the school teachers of Beshenkovich, which is waiting for them. You think you bought your house in Ballin because you like the neighborhood, because you like the golf? Divine providence brought you to that piece of land. Because that piece of land is the land that has your name on it.
Well, everything is divine.
The question is, what are you going to do in that piece of land? Are you going to sit there wasting your time, right, staring at the walls? And when I say staring at the walls, doing nothing, I mean watching Netflix endlessly, right? You're literally staring at a wall. Or are you going to be infusing holiness in that space? Are you going to be studying Torah? Look at the people that are studying Torah with me right here on YouTube. Think about it. Think about the dozens, 37 people right now watching this class right now on YouTube, right? Wherever you are, folks, whether you're in Nigeria, Iraq, or somewhere else, Amy's with us. Wonderful, Amy. Good to see you. Wherever you are, what you're doing is that you're sanctifying the space that you're in right now. You might be in an airport. You might be on the road just listening to this video. You might be, I don't know, wherever you might be, having breakfast coffee with me here. What you're doing is that you're sanctifying the space that you're in right now. Now, you might say to me, well, Rabbi, I'm not a rabbi. I'm not a rebbitzin. So this is really not my thing. But I'm going to try. The message from today's Torah portion is you don't know what your thing is. And your inclination or your aptitude has got nothing to do with your destiny. Just like the land is divided by the raffle, so too the assignment of each individual soul in this world is irrational. It's destined by the divine, and it's nothing to do with your skill set per se. And that's why a Jew is to constantly be on the lookout. Constantly, wherever you are, you got to be studying Torah and doing mitzvahs. You can't just say, well, I went to shul 8 years ago on Yom Kippur, so I'm good. You can't say that. You got to daven every day. You've got to give charity every day. You've got to, I recently had a trip to Europe, right? So wherever we went in Europe, we made it our business to visit the Chabad. We made it our business to strengthen the Chabad, to give a little donation, give a little encouragement, right? We danced with the Chabad rabbi in Malta. We danced with the Chabad rabbi in the ghetto in Rome. We patronized the kosher restaurant in the middle of an unpronounceable a village in Tuscany. It was called Cantina Giuliano. Magnificent little hole-in-the-wall restaurant, but it's 100% kosher, middle of nowhere in Tuscany, run by a Jewess and her husband who converted to Judaism. She grew up there. It's a family legacy, and they make the olive oil themselves, and they make the wine. They grow the wine themselves, and they hunt the truffles, and they do everything else just like they've been doing for hundreds of years. It was an amazing experience. Wherever you go, you got to try to make a blessing. Try to do a mitzvah. Try to infuse holiness in this particular space. You found yourself in an airport in St. Louis today, and you're not sure how you landed up over there. Make sure to do a mitzvah. Maybe you could speak to someone. The other day I missed a flight, and I landed up on a random flight from 2 cities that I never thought I would ever really be in. And my wife and I were saying to ourselves, we're like, why did that happen? And then we said, there was some guy from a very strange, there's a couple from Tbilisi, Georgia there. Tbilisi, Tblisi, Georgia, sitting next to us on the plane.
Country of Georgia?
Yeah, the country of Georgia. Yeah. And they just took a liking to us. We love the Jews. We support the Jews. We believe in the Jews, yada, 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 yada. And he insisted on putting his phone number in my phone. If you ever in Georgia, you have to come visit. I'm like, okay.
There is a very strong.
He's not Jewish. This guy's not Jewish. But we said to ourselves, my wife and I, we said, one day when we land up in this guy's house in Tbilisi, Georgia, we'll say, that was the reason that we had to miss that flight or be in this place or whatever else. We're there always for a specific reason. Now, let's get into this a little bit more deeper. The sages tell us in the Talmud that every sage, that the sages would often say that they had a mitzvah that was unique to them, that a unique mitzvah specific to them. Right? Avuch b'mahavizar. What was your father's extra devotion to? Right? There's, the 613 commandments. What is your unique mitzvah? Every one of us has a special mitzvah, right? Which they would fulfill with extra love, with extra care, with extra devotion, with extra expense, and so on and so forth. For example, you'll notice some people, they'll spend extra money on their etrog for sukkos. When it comes to Sukkot, they'll learn everything there is to learn about the kosher etrog, the citron fruits that we use for the festival of Sukkot, and they'll get one only from a specific place and a specific heritage and a specific kosher certification, and they'll look for the highest and the most expensive and the best and whatever. There's a Jewess in our community, actually a Jew in our community, whose mother I met. She's not well now, but when I met her, she said to me, I come from Odessa, and the only thing Jewish I remember in Odessa, she grew up in Lenin's Odessa. Lenin. You know how bad that is? Stalin, Lenin, whatever. It's before the 50s. She remembers as a young girl, the only Jewish experience that they had was that her father would go from one side of Odessa at great risk to his life, and you would smuggle the matzah, the hand-baked shmura matzah, from one side of Odessa to the other side of Odessa. And that was, that made such a profound impression upon her that she, in America today, remembers that she's Jewish, and her son lays tefillin every single day. He's probably watching this video. If not live, he's probably going to watch it later, right? It's an amazing experience. So this person is, clearly they're Zahir, it's fair, they're very unique and special. The very special mitzvah would be the mitzvah of matzah, right? But how do you know what your unique mitzvah? How can you identify what your unique mitzvah is? Now, all mitzvahs are general for every single Jew, but how do you know what your specific mitzvah is? The Rebbe tells us that there's a way to figure that out. The way to figure out what your unique mitzvah is by identifying, by reverse engineering. What does reverse engineering mean? Reverse engineering means that you take a drone from the enemy, right? You capture an Iranian drone, and then you figure out, now I'm no engineer, Yamshi, you're going to correct me if I'm doing a mistake here, but you figure out how it works so that you can learn how to game the system. Once you figure out how this Iranian drone works, then you figure out its weak spots or its vulnerabilities so that you can develop technology that would be able to capture future drones. Is that correct? Sort of. Okay, fine. So now you got to figure out, from my enemies I've become wise. From my enemies I've become wise. When you look at your enemy, who's your enemy? Your Yetzer Hara, your evil inclination is your enemy. You have an inside enemy, folks. There's a terrorist inside of you who's trying to distract you from your divine mission. This is the evil inclination. This is the Yetzer Hara, the animal soul. The animal soul is an angel of God whose mission it is to draw you away from your purpose in this world. So how do you do that? Apparently, he got the memo on what your mission in the world is. And that's why, what does the evil inclination do to you? He makes it extremely difficult for you to do that which is most important for you. So the Rebbe reverse engineers, and the Rebbe says, okay, so if you want to find out what your mission is in this world, there's one entity that actually knows what your purpose is in this world, and that's the evil inclination. Find out what the evil inclination makes most difficult for you. Look deep within yourself. Identify that which is most difficult for you. And when you're able to isolate and identify that which is most challenging for you to do, that mitzvah which is most difficult for you to do, you will be well on your way with clues to identify and isolate what your mission is in this world. It's actually the opposite of your aptitude, right? Aligned with what we just said about the division of land being according to the lottery, the raffle. It's the opposite of your aptitude. Yeah, because I would think that that my mission in this world is that which I am most inclined to do, right? But now when I look at my animal soul, my evil inclination, and I realize that my evil inclination is what does my evil inclination do to me? My evil inclination makes it extremely difficult for me to give charity, right? I don't mind praying. I don't mind joining a minyan. I don't mind keeping Shabbos. I don't mind, doing the other mitzvahs. But there are people, you ask them to make a donation, and they'd rather bury themselves than give the donation.
So it's that which you are most challenged.
That which you are most challenged, the opposite of your aptitude, right? Because your aptitude is that which you are most excited about, the most excited, most good for you, most aligned with your strengths, right? But you're telling a person here, I want you to look at the thing which is most hardest for you, most difficult for you, and that's your mission.
But it's not most difficult in a mundane way.
It's not in a mundane way. What does mundane mean?
Ridiculous. Have a better golf swing. I haven't found
No, it's not in a mundane way.
It's
Not in a mundane way, no. But it would be like this. Like, let's say you have a very hard time being nice to Republican Jews. Let's say you hate them with a passion. Why? Because they're Republicans or because they're Democrats. Right? Now you are violating a mitzvah right now, which is the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew like yourself, right?
That's what speaking disparaging.
Or maybe you have a passion for slandering other people. Maybe you just enjoy it and you live to slander. You just love it. Some people, you know how juicy it is, how good it feels when you speak badly about another person? You feel so good. Doesn't it feel amazing?
Gossip.
Right? The gossip is a separate prohibition, by the way. There's two separate prohibitions. There's gossip and there's slander. There's rechilus and there's lashon hara. Both of them are two separate prohibitions. So when you realize that this might be your mitzvah is to be able to curb your enthusiasm, to bite your tongue when it comes to speaking badly about other people. Maybe your mission in this world is to be nice to Jews on the other side of the aisle, to be able to say to them, you're an idiot, and your mindset is warped, and you're a danger to society. However, I still love you. I mean, don't say the first three things to them. You can think that.
How about those special gifts that one gets? Like, let's say, biblically, Batzalel and the Holy...
Oh, so Batzalel was gifted with massive architectural skills or engineering entities. That too. Yeah. Elsewhere, the Rebbe says, in fact, you're right. The Rebbe does say that you also have to identify it based upon your strengths, right? The stuff that you're good at, but that's obvious. That's obvious. Today we're learning about the counterintuitive component of our destiny. aligned with the Torah portion this week, which is dividing the land through the irrational raffle. In the same way, you can come and say, Rabbi, I'm really not interested in laying tefillin. You know why? Because I'm not interested. It doesn't do anything for me. You want to learn Torah with me, Rabbi? You got my attention. But you want me to pray? I'm not interested because it's not my thing. Then I say to that person, if this is your problem, if you have zero passion for it, the reason you have no passion for it is probably because the evil inclination wants to keep you away from this specific mitzvah, and that's why he's giving you, he's crediting your passion in other parts of your spirituality to deficit the most important part of your spirituality. So it's not despite the fact that you have no interest, but deliberately because you have no interest in this part of Torah or in this part of mitzvah. That's why your red flag alert should go up to say this very, very well might be the part of this world that is my destiny. Does that make sense to you, Chuck? You're making faces.
Struggling a little.
You're struggling. Why are you struggling? What's so hard to understand?
Well,
Makes sense to Andy, and he's an engineer.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm an engineer. I'm a rational engineer, but
Yeah, he's rational. You're an entrepreneur. I mean, you're a CFO. I mean, you understand that how to make a deal, right? The art of the deal.
So let's say this person is struggling and challenged to put tefillin on.
Yeah, he doesn't want to lay tefillin, right?
So that is his purpose in the world?
Yeah, that's probably his purpose in the world. Yep.
you have a hard time thinking that putting on tefillin could be anybody's purpose.
That makes a difference.
Why is that hard for you to understand that laying tefillin could be a purpose in this world? What's hard about that?
I don't know.
Does it seem?
Think of tefillin as a connection with all of the Torah. It starts with love God, first paragraph of the Shema, love God, remember all those words of the Torah, and that's what tefillin is.
It cleanses
Tefillin is your
it
reminder,
cleanses-
your channel to go to the Torah and study it all.
Let me tell you something else. I have to give one more
also
component.
It also cleanses your body, your head, and your heart.
I want to give one final component here. One final component over here. Daisy, good morning. In UK, we're not Jews. Very interesting. Was concerned about Noahide laws and what Zionists really believe. Yeah. Okay. So Zionists, remember Daisy? Zionist is a biblical term. It comes from God. It's not a bad word. It's not a curse word. It's a word that is synonymous with godliness, right? And what Zionists believe is that we're supposed to make this world a better place. And how do we make this world a better place?
People think of Zionists as being Herzl derivatives.
Yeah. So those are modern Zionists. I can't even identify with that. You're right. Well, good point. I'm talking about biblical Zionism. Biblical Zionism is the belief that every single human being has a purpose in this world, has a piece of real estate that is destined for them. And therefore, the promised land is the land that belongs to the Jewish people for them to sanctify. And that wherever you are, you're supposed to seek out your ability to make this piece of real estate synonymous with godliness, with awareness of God, with consciousness of God, with the will of God. You're supposed to make everything that you touch holy, right? And when you mention the 7 Noahide laws, it's very beautiful, Daisy, because Jews have 613 commandments, but non-Jews have 7 universal laws, so that every human being has been empowered by God Almighty with laws that are going to make that space holy. So, for example, when people call for attacks against Jewish people, not only is that racist and pure evil, but it is also in violation of the 7 Noahide laws, right? So when you, Daisy, have the courage to stand up to your peers in an anti-Semitic community, to be able to stand up for the Jews and say, actually, this is wrong, and the Jews are also human beings, and the Jews also have a right to live, and also have a right to their homeland. In fact, that's the only piece of real estate on earth that was promised by God to a specific nation. Every other nation in the world, including United Kingdom and every country in Europe, was conquered from people that lived there before. Only the land of Israel was promised by God to the Jewish people in the world's oldest book, the world's most popular book in the title deed that is the Bible. When you stand up to your peers and you defend the Jewish people in the name of of honesty, of integrity, of morality, of ethics, then you are sanctifying that space, Daisy. And I encourage you to go ahead and do that. Corey, if he starts putting on tefillin, does his mission change? No, tefillin, remember, it's a 24-hour thing. You lay tefillin, it's good for 24 hours. You got to do it again tomorrow and the next day and the very next day. And why is that? It's not a one-time thing, Corey. It's something you got to do as much as you can. And every day that you have life means that God has a mission for you for another day, right? Remember what we say in the morning, Modeh Ani. When we wake up in the morning, the first thing we say is, I thank you, O living and eternal King, for having restored my soul within me. Rabbi Munasecha, great is your faithfulness. What does it mean, great is your faithfulness? We sometimes interpret that to mean that great is your faithfulness. I'm grateful that I can count on you, God, for giving me life. But I interpret it the other way around. Great is your faithfulness. Thank you for trusting in me. Thank you for believing in me, for giving me the credit of an extra day of life, so that because you believe that I'm going to fulfill my purpose on this day of life. On this day. So every day is a gift, folks. There's no such thing as killing time. Killing time is a disgrace. It's an insult to God Almighty. We were placed in this world on assignment. Can you imagine a soldier who's fighting for his people, fighting for survival? And what happens? And he says, well, today I'm going to kill time. Hello, you're on a mission. What are you doing? If your mission was over, they'd pull you back and bring you home. But if you're on assignment in this world, then you've got to make sure that to make every second count. This is why we count the Omer. Because we're not just counting the days, rather we're making the days count.
So when we pass, God is saying we fulfilled our mission?
Yes. No, when we pass, what's happening is that your time's up. Whether you fulfilled your mission or not, that is what the heavenly court is going to determine. Now, if you finish your mission, you can progress to the next level, which is to heaven, to Garden of Eden. But if you have not finished your mission, that's when you got to come back to this earth in a form of reincarnation. Reincarnation is when you come back to this earth, whether as a full-blown life, as a newborn baby, or maybe you come back as an impregnated soul, something called ibur, or whether you come back in a diminuted form of life. Maybe you come back in a food or a drink or an animal or a vegetable, or you can come back, or you can finish your mission when your children, by the way, Chuck, when your kids do mitzvahs in your merit. So if your child is laying tefillin, if your child is giving tzedakah, if your child is saying Kaddish, then that could mitigate the need for the soul to come back to this earth, because the child can finish the mission for the parent.
You have to come back in a way in which you can fulfill your mission.
Yeah, but maybe the child can finish it for the parent. And this, my friends, ends our conversation for today about identifying your unique destiny in this world. We've discovered some powerful tools to discover our mission in this world. We're not here on vacation. We're here on assignment. Let's make sure that by the time we leave this world, we can say, Hineni, here I am, and I finished my mission. You know who did that? Was Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen had this beautiful song. I don't know what it's called. I think it's called "You Want It Darker." But he talks about the end of his life and like suffering, and he says Hineni in Hebrew. He says Hebrew words in the song. He talks about Hineni. Here I am. I am here, my maker. Like I'm here. I'm yours, my maker. Like maybe he was saying. Perhaps my interpretation of the song is that he was saying that I'm ready for you, God, to take me because I finished my mission. Right? Imagine if every conversation that you had with another person was one that was infused with the awareness that this might be your last conversation with that person. You never know, right? You never know. Imagine if you lived every day as if it was
your last day.
As if it was your last day. Can you imagine how meaningful your life would be? How conscious, how present you would be when you'd be able to relate to every other person, knowing that this might just be my legacy. This last word, this last conversation, this last facial expression, this last ignoring of that person might be the very last interaction. How my child will remember me, how my spouse will remember me, how my God will remember me. So let's make it count. Let's make it happen. Have a great day, everybody.
It's not the last.